afterwards, and I can also send you the link as well if you want to look back on it as well. So my name is Róisín, as I said before. So some of you may have met me before. If you haven't, hello, I am the coordinator of the Young Environmentalist Awards. So today's session, just a really quick intro what we're going to be covering. I'm going to have a really quick introduction to ECO-UNESCO. Then I'm going to look at a climate justice survey we actually did this year. The results actually came out last week, so it's very new, but it kind of looked at the youth attitudes and values towards environmental action. So I'm going to look at that. Then I'm going to look at the Environmentalist Awards. Some of you may have registered before and might be familiar with it already. I know some of you might be quite new, so this will give a good overview of what it is, how to submit, and all the supports and resources that are available to you as a mentor. I'm going to then look at your submission folder and what it contains, how to use it, how to submit your project, and then I'm going to go through the 6 steps to success framework for action project planning. And then at the end, there will be links to other supports and resources. So ECO-UNESCO, which is where I'm coming from today. So we are an environmental education and youth organisation. So we're a registered charity and an NGO. So we were founded in 1986, and ever since then we've worked with schools and youth groups all across Ireland. And we really try to facilitate young people to not only understand environmental issues better, but also be empowered to use their knowledge and skills to actually take action. So we run a wide variety of different education programs, youth initiatives, with our flagship program being the Young Environmentalist Awards, which I'm going to explain today. Before I go into the Young Environmentalist Awards, I'm going to quickly look at some of the results that we found from our recent survey. So we did a climate justice survey, which results came out last week. So this actually involved over 1,000 young people all across Ireland, aged between 16 and 25. Just to get their concerns and ideas and thoughts on climate action, environmental issues, and how we can support them to feel better about the climate situation. So it actually found that 97% of these young people felt concerned or extremely concerned about climate change. So it just shows it's a really pressing issue, and young people are concerned about environmental issues. And then the main barrier that young people felt stopped them from climate action or getting involved was simply not being listened to. So it just shows it's really important to give young people a voice and to give them a platform and opportunity to have a youth-led action. So a lot of young people are getting more involved, particularly because of other youth activists around the world, such as Greta Thunberg, for example, which just shows that no one is too small to make a difference and no one is too young to make a difference. So it's really good that there's now a platform up and coming for young people to get involved in environmental issues and action. So these young people also said that there's 5 main things that they would need or that they want. So the first thing that they need is to feel like their voices are being heard, which they feel is really important for them. And the second thing that they said they need is to connect with their communities and to act for the environment. And then finally, they also want to build resilience and to develop skills for the future, and particularly in the environmental field as well, which they feel is really important. So then us as mentors, so you probably know all this information already, but I'm just going to go through it really quickly. And so as mentors, we can support young people to achieve all these goals by being positive role models and helping the young people, showing these young people that their opinions and contributions matter and that their voice matters, and having that they can be listened to. Another really good thing we can do is embrace the ideas of students, and we can also promote an opportunity for youth-led actions and involve them in decision making. So it's these kind of areas that we try to incorporate into the Young Environmentalist Awards, which gives an opportunity for young people to have a youth-led action project in their school or community or youth group. So some of you might be familiar with this already. If you aren't, I'll give a really quick introduction. So the Young Environmentalist Awards is ECO-UNESCO's flagship programme. So it was actually began in 1999, so 23 years ago. So it's an all-Ireland programme that recognises and rewards young people who take action to raise environmental awareness and to improve the environment. So it's completely free to enter from all young people aged 10 to 18. Hi, you're very welcome. Anyone just joining in?
step 5, is it? When you hear that word.
People when they come in. So yeah, anyone joining, you're very, very welcome. It is going to be recorded, so if you miss the start of it, I can send you out the link. But yeah, so the Young Environmentalist Awards, completely free to enter for all young people aged 10 to 18. Project submissions are due 19th of February 2023, and everyone here is registered, but any additional people can also register online at www.yea.ie. So some of the feedback we got from previous mentors of action projects on why they wanted to enter the YEA and the benefits that they found was that they found it gave an opportunity for young people to develop the valuable skills and experience with the group action project, particularly with their peers. It also gives an opportunity for young people to receive recognition for their work, which also increases their confidence. Another good reason to enter the YEA is because it gives a clear framework in terms of the 6 steps to success, which I'll explain about at the end of this workshop, and supports and resources, and it also links to the curriculum. So other benefits of creating an action project links back to the results that we had in our climate justice survey, which basically said that young people feel like they don't have a voice or they're not being listened to and they're concerned about climate action. So creating an action project can help young people to engage with their nature, to develop important life skills and have their voice heard as well by raising awareness with environmental issues they're passionate about. So I'm going to try and share this really quick video if it shares the sound for me. So, okay, so you might just let me know if you can hear this. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so it's a really quick video there. It was made last year with YEA 2022. It just gives an overview of just some of the things that go on in Young Environmentalist Awards. So Young Environmentalist Awards, it's an all-Ireland programme, as I said. And it's young people aged 10 to 18 in schools, youth groups, youth reaches, and it's not an individual project, it's a group action project. So we usually say try to keep it between 2 and 25 participants of young people. There's also 3 different age groups to register into. So Super Junior, which is 10 to 12 years old, Junior, which is 12 to 14, and Senior, which is 15 to 18. So there's also 12 different categories that you can enter into. So everything from biodiversity to energy, climate change, water, food, marine, transport, eco-art and design, eco-innovation, eco-community development, eco-health and well-being, and waste. So there is awards for every category in each age group as well. But there's also additional awards. So there's a local to global SDG award, and basically seeing if you can link sustainable development goals from a local to global level in your project. There's also a further growth award, which basically encourages groups that have previously entered in the past to re-enter that same project if they've continued it on. So it's basically trying to encourage young people to continue their project, not just for the year that the Young Environmentalist Awards are on, but to continue it on in future years, and they can get recognition from growing that. There's also Eco Mentor of the Year awards, and we're bringing in new mentor recognition awards this year, which details will be available soon. So each of the projects are linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you aren't familiar with this graphic, you can actually find this graphic on the UN.org website. So basically the 17 individual goals were created in the year 2015 with the Paris Agreement. So basically 193 countries out of 195 countries in the world. So nearly every single country in the world got together and they decided these 17 specific goals. So each of these goals address issues in society for both human health and environmental health. So when you're making an environmental action project, we try to link the action project to some of these goals. So an example would be if you're entering an energy project into the energy category in Young Environmentalist Awards, try to have a look and a think to see what sustainable development goals would that be linked to. So energy, for example, could be number 1, for example, no poverty, as the energy and cost of living crisis are connected. It could be number 3, for example, seeing as fossil fuels creates air pollution, which can impact our health. It can be number 7, which is affordable and clean energy. But basically, the important thing to remember here is all of these goals are actually very connected. So impacting one goal usually touches off many other goals as well. So students may be asked in the ECO-Den semi-finals or in the final showcase what goals that their project is linked to. So just to keep in mind some of these sustainable development goals. So the supports and resources that are available as well. So once you register, you should have received an email, which I will discuss in a bit. But there is the YEA manual, so the program manual, 6 steps to success training, which is a free training for your students. There's also some project inspiration ideas, a document in the folder that you get. And also on our website, you can actually see the finalist booklet. So the finalist booklet 2022, which you can see all the finalists that got to the awards last year. Also, the Young Environmentalist community. So we're trying to grow this community as well from this year onwards. So basically, the Young Environmentalist community, anyone that enters a action project is a really important part of the Young Environmentalist community. So it just gives an opportunity to connect with like-minded youth who are passionate about environmental issues and action. It provides youth with an opportunity to network, to develop their skills and confidence, and also encouraged to continue their action project with the Further Growth Award, which I discussed previously. So really trying to get them to continue their action work and continue their hard work on their project, which they've created. So a rough timeline then on the Young Environmentalist Awards. So registration is still open. You can register up until December. And then in February, so this year it's the 19th of February 2023, is when you submit your project. So once you submit your project, we will see if you have the full submission in place. And then in March and April will be your ECO-Dens, which is basically the semi-finals for the Young Environmentalist Awards. And then in May, successful projects will be invited to the award ceremony, which is a big event, lots of workshops and cool activities on the day up in Dublin. It's important to remember that while the deadline to submit is in February, so the 19th of February, there's actually a few weeks where students can still develop their project between submission and ECO-Dens and the final showcase. So from the semi-final to the final, they will have a few weeks to further develop their project. So as long as the final project is submitted in February, they still have a few more weeks to develop it as well, which is useful to know. So once you've registered, you should have received an email from me, which looks something like this on the left. So it has your project name and your project folder link, which is in the blue. So this is a really, really important email, which details of the project, details of the submission requirements, and your link to your submission folder. So if anyone has registered and you've not yet received this email, please do let me know, and we can try and sort that out, and I can try to get it out to you. But basically, a really important aspect of this email is the link, which you can see in the blue. So this link is to your submission folder. So your submission folder looks something like this. So it's important to note that if you are a mentor and you have submitted more than one project, you will receive a unique folder for each project. So it's important to try and keep track of each of the different submission folders for each of the individual projects. So this folder is where you basically will upload your submission. So it contains some submission resources and also some supports. So the content looks something like this. So there's a folder within this folder, which is basically where you upload the 1-minute video for submission and you complete your project submission form. So it's basically just these two things which need to be completed to submit your project. You don't need to press any button. You don't need to press an upload button. Once you upload everything to this folder, it'll automatically be submitted. So they are the two main things you need to submit your project. And then the other documents in that folder is basically to provide you with some support. So the first two green arrows there you can see are the 6 Steps to Success training. This is basically a link to the e-learning platform, which is a free 6 Steps to Success training. It's self-paced and your students can do this at a time that they like. If you think that you prefer a pre-recorded version of the 6 Steps to Success, just let me know and I'll try to send one out to you. This is basically just a video that you can play to your students or those in your youth group instead of the e-learning version. So just let me know which one you prefer and I can get them out to you as well. The next thing in your submission folder is a document with the YA project ideas. So it just kind of goes through each of the categories, some project ideas for each category if you are in need of some inspiration. And then the last two in the folder is basically the project submission guidelines, which is really useful to know and see if you're missing anything, all the requirements and guidelines for your submission. And then finally is the Young Environmentalist Awards Manual. So this awards manual, the YA manual, is really useful to go through. It provides step-by-step guidance for your project. So I really recommend looking at this folder, getting familiar with it, and looking at the YA manual as well. So basically, to submit your project by the 19th of February, it's basically just these two things. So it's your submission form, which you will find in your folder. And secondly, you have to upload the 1-minute video of your students or those in your youth group. Basically, it's like pitching their project as well. So before we go on to the second part of this webinar, going to the 6 Steps to Success, does anyone have any questions on anything that I've said so far? No? Okay. Perfect. If anyone has any questions at all throughout it, just let me know. No problem at all. Okay, so the 6 Steps to Success framework. It's basically 6 steps that at ECO-UNESCO we advise people to use when we're doing an action project. It's quite a structured format, so it's kind of easy to use and it can be easy for youth as well to follow, which can be quite nice. So the first step in your 6 Steps to Success program and framework for your action project is basically getting your team together. So it'll be step 1. So this would be choosing your team name, allocating roles and responsibilities. So some of the roles of youth in your group could be a team leader, for example, social media manager, reporter, resource manager, researcher. So for about 2 minutes, we're going to do a quick little activity. So I just kind of want to hear some feedback maybe, or even just some networking ideas. So I know some of you may have been involved before, some of you might be new to YEA. So basically just to collaborate and just maybe how would you help support young environmentalists on step 1. So maybe try to have a really quick discussion. You can unmute yourself or you can write in the chat. How would you encourage young people basically to assign these roles to each member of the group? So I know some people like to assign them at random. Maybe they allow the young people to group themselves. But basically any experience you have now would be a good time to share. So if you have any ideas, feel free to share.
Well, maybe I'd start. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Hi.
Well, what we've done this before, and it's just I needed a new group this time, and so it was me. I picked the leader, because she was, she was a science girl and she was into environmentalists, and I said, you pick your team. And she was suddenly saying, what? You mean I have to pick the team? And I was saying, you pick people that you think you can work with, because that's the most important thing first. There's no point in saying, oh yeah, I give all these people jobs and say nobody wants to work with each other. So I think that's the most important thing, is that you pick one person who's going to be your team leader, who then kind of picks their own people, because otherwise they're not going to work together. That was my only suggestion.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Catherine. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's very, very good feedback. Yeah, absolutely. It's really good.
Hi, this is Mary here. Usually sometimes I'd get those that are really good at art, you know, to be kind of in charge of like the display boards or posters or anything like that. So sometimes, you know, when you put all the different things on the board like this, there's this area, this area, this area, and then they kind of have a little discussion themselves and then probably assign them that way. But I'm sure there's lots of different ways. So.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Mary. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just that whole aspect of you know, maybe putting them in charge and then making it more youth-led, which is exactly what you said. It's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good. Does anyone else have any ideas?
Yeah, I would. Sorry, can you hear me? No.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I would. Yeah, I'd write down all the different roles, and I'd let the teams pick themselves, because usually it's about 5 or 6 or maybe 7, and then I'd ask them to write down what they feel they would like to do privately themselves, and then they'd share it. And sometimes a person would say, oh, I'd like to be team leader, but if 2 or 3 people pick the same thing, I'd give them a minute or 2 just to explain why they should, and then let the lads decide among themselves. And you know, they usually come to good conclusions. They usually take different roles. And sometimes I get 2 or 3 to do different roles, like timekeeper or social media, instead of just the one. So they overlap quite a bit as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, perfect. Amazing. Absolutely. Some really, really good suggestions there. Thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely. So yes, so when you're getting a team together, some really useful activities, which some of you've already said. So doing a skills audit can be really, really useful. So getting the students to maybe audit their skills and see which one would be suited to which role as well. Also getting together a team contract can be really, really useful. So if you're ever stuck for, if the group ever in need of inspiration throughout their action project process, they can always go back to the team contract to see what they decided at the start. So it's a really, really important step, and it's a really, really good step as well, just to get organised in your team. So more information on this step can be found on page 17 to 24 of the YEA manual as well, if you're ever looking for more activities for this. So for step 2 then, when you're selecting an issue which the group is going to focus on and research it more. So you're going to be choosing, the group are going to be choosing an issue that they're interested in, and they're going to write down information that they'd like to explore. So important for this step, it's not yet looking at the solutions as such, it's more so just looking at the issue itself and the impacts of the issue and why it's important, perhaps, how it impacts local environmental issues, but also global environmental issues. Really, really important as well to note that this issue, the issue that your group chooses, it does not need to be what they know the most about. It just needs to be something that they're passionate about, because research is a really important part of the Young Environmentalist Awards process. So as long as they're passionate about something, they can choose that issue. It doesn't need to necessarily be what they know most about. So a good thing for when you're doing your research is to use a trustworthy sources. So take your time and get your group to choose the issue thoroughly, research using papers, maybe books, documentaries, and then always refer back to the 12 project categories as well. So what can you actually enter this project into? So one of my favorite activities for a group when they are selecting an environmental issue is the alphabet game. So basically you go from A to Z, a few rounds, and basically try to name an environmental issue with each of those letters. And if they particularly know that they want to do, let's say, a biodiversity project, you can maybe say choose issues that biodiversity is impacted by, or that is linked to biodiversity. So it's a good way for all group members to really collaborate and think of all of these issues before they decide which one to focus on. So after doing that activity, it might look something like this. So environmental issues, you could have a lot of them going around like this, and you can get your group to discuss further and which ones they want to focus on then for their project. So from page 27 to 39 of the Young Environmentalist Manual, you can find more information on this. So when you're deciding to choose an issue, some of the activities could be the alphabet race, for example. Another one could be looking at environmental film. Now, there's a new streaming service called WaterBear, which I've actually only discovered myself recently. It's actually completely free to download, and it has environmental documentaries, environmental series, sustainability movies, other ones on social issues that are really, really useful. Some of them might not be suited to youth, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are very much tailored to a youth background. So it's really, really useful if you wanted to find a new little short film or documentary for your youth to look at as well. It can be really useful for that. Some other ways you can do some issue researching with your research mind map as well, which you can find in the manual. Step number 3 then, so halfway there, when your youth are doing their action project, would be develop an action plan. So a good way to do this would be to maybe do a 25-way brainstorm to the issue, and think of 25 solutions to the problem that they've chosen in step 2, and then maybe get them to narrow it down to the 3 most interesting and doable solutions, and then use those 3 solutions to think of how they could do their action plan from start to finish. So some good things to remember when it comes to this is that they should be youth-led actions and ideas with guidance from yourselves. 1 to 3 clear, realistic goals for the solutions as well. Also try and get it to be achievable considering the time frame. I know time can be a big factor in some projects. Also try to get them to think outside the box maybe, and get them to be creative, innovative, and maybe see, can they reach a broad audience? So this is something that is really important as well. The last point here, which I'm going to focus on a bit more. So reaching a broad audience in your school or community for your action plan. So think about all the different people that you could influence or maybe impact with just one level of action or one action area. So an example I've taken here is maybe a group is doing a project on reducing plastic. So this could involve maybe a few different actions in the one action project, for example. It doesn't need to be like this, but just to get thinking outside the box. So the first action could be maybe looking at the plastic in school, monitoring it, maybe auditing their plastic usage. The second action could maybe linking in with different people in the school, different years in the school, with management, for example. The third action could be maybe running education sessions, another action. The fourth one could be maybe linking with external people in the community. This is really, really important as well, to try and involve as much people as possible. So it doesn't just need to be in the school or in your class, but it can be with the management, it can be with your local businesses, for example. And then another thing to always remember, you can always write to your TD or government official, for example, who's related to that issue. So there's loads of different actions you can do for the one issue. So it depends on what your youth group would like to focus on, and there's a few different ones you can do. So just to keep in mind as well. So for step 3 then, just developing your action plan. There's some other useful activities you can do in the manual as well, such as your mind map, action project planning, which can be found on page 41 to 47 as well. And then step number 4, this would be where you're taking action. So this would be probably the main chunk of your action project after all the research is finished. So some really useful things to do would be recording your meeting minutes, for example, so you know exactly what's being discussed. Your group can look back on these minutes and see what they plan to do, for example. Important to note as well that in the Young Environmentalist Awards, it's not just the research that'll be looked at, but there has to be a really strong proof of action. And I will emphasize that. So just really try to emphasize proof of action in your projects. Also, as I said earlier, you can think wide. So it doesn't need to just involve that group. It doesn't need to just involve that class, but it could be people in the community, local businesses, policymakers. Think outside the box. And then also think, can it be passed on and continued? So maybe by that group itself, or maybe it can be continued by future TY students or other school or other teachers or other students in the school for a longer term project as well. So just some things to consider as well when taking action. So once your project is submitted, you'll be invited to fully submitted projects will go to the ECO-Dens. So I have a quick video here which shows the ECO-Dens, and then also successful projects from that will go to the final showcase in May. So I will just share if the sound works. So once again, please let me know if you can hear this. Right. So that just gives a quick overview of just our showcase. So our last one in person was 2019, like that video, with the pandemic kind of putting a spanner in the works for all our in-person activities and showcases. So 2023, final showcase in May 2023. It will be our first in-person one since 2019. So it will be really, really great to get back in person, an opportunity for young people to really showcase their projects, to meet other young people, make friends. So yeah, it's really, really looking forward to it. It should be really, really good. So after taking action, it's also really important to do step 5, which would be raising awareness. So this is a really good opportunity for your project members to really raise awareness of all the hard work that they've done on their project. So raise awareness of the great action that they've done. So some ideas that they can do is maybe doing a press release with your local newspaper, for example. If you have a school newsletter, try to include it in that. Maybe you can do, the students can do some social media campaigns, for example, maybe organise an event and get some media coverage of it. As I said earlier, they can also lobby, so they can maybe write to their TD or government or politician in their area about their issue to try and raise more awareness about it. And they can also do communication and education campaigns with younger groups. So a few different ways that they can raise awareness. Some raising awareness toolkits are also available for you to look at on the YEA manual from page 55 to 63 as well, which can have some other useful ideas. And then finally, the final step of the action project is basically step 6, which is to reflect. So it's important to have a team reflection. So as a team, they can maybe discuss what went right, what was a barrier, changes and improvements they could make if they were to take action again. Also, individual reflection is really good as well. Young Environmentalist Awards and participants develop a lot of individual skills and teamwork skills, but also really important to reflect as an individual, team members, and also mentor reflection. Maybe think what went right, what was a barrier, and what changes could be made as well. So there's lots of other help and support available, and particularly on the YEA manual, which is in your folder, your submission folder, which you should have received. And as I said, there's a finalist booklet available on our website as well, where you can see all the finalists from last year and all the details there. And there's also some supports which could be helpful for your projects on our e-learning platform, clubs and activities. Also, we ran an Eco Week last month, which had some useful workshops and recordings, which basically had guest speakers for some of the Young Environmentalist Award categories. I've recorded all of these, so if anyone has registered or missed that event, just contact me and I can send you on some of these. Maybe you can get some inspiration as well. And yeah, so thank you so much for listening to me for the last 40 minutes. I know you must be tired after Monday, but thank you so much for joining. Is there any other questions or?
Róisín, I wrote into the chat there. Can the kids have this PowerPoint, or is it yours, or what?
I can share it with you. Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't mind, because it's good because it focuses them and everything's in one place. Whereas I was trying to make ones and then there was your stuff and I want to put it all together. But this is perfect. If you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Also, if anyone, I know in the project folder, submission folder, there is the e-learning link for the 6 steps to success, the student version. If anyone is having issues with that, or if anyone would prefer a pre-recorded version, which you can stop and play with your students, just let me know and I can send you that link as well, which might be useful.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, good question. How many steps should be completed? So by the 19th of February, which is the final submission deadline, basically that should be pretty much your finished project. It should be finished by then. So your final submission, your video should be submitted, and your project submission form should be submitted. But there is some opportunity to further maybe raise awareness and get maybe raise awareness and run more education perhaps in between the submission deadline and the Eco-Den. So you have about maybe 3-4 weeks in between the submission deadline and Eco-Dens, and so for fully submitted projects. So they do have a few weeks of opportunity to raise more awareness by then. But yeah, so by the final submission deadline in February, the 6 steps should be completed and they can just develop them further in between the 2 steps.
Sorry, where will the Eco-Dens be this year? Sorry, Róisín.
Yeah, so the Eco-Dens, so we're going to do regional Eco-Dens. So I'll be going to each of the provinces and doing some in each of them. So we haven't venues sorted as yet. So there will be one in Dublin, and there might be another one in Leinster, and there'll be one in Munster, Ulster and Connacht as well. So Dublin and then a few other ones. The venues aren't confirmed, but I will let you know as soon as I hear any confirmed venues.
Okay.